Okay, so lead scoring, all right? This is like in the most manual sense, we want to establish what in the sales world is called BANT, okay? So that's an acronym. So it's budget,
Money.
authority,
Mm.
need, and time or timeliness. Authority is generally always established, right? So a budget, right? This is what our questions need to be around before they move on, right? This is the qualification stage. And you'll see this comes out also in the script, right? So these are the questions we're trying to, so this discussion merges over to the script, which is here. Is this your, yes, okay. So that's why we're asking these questions, right? Number one, we're qualifying them. And number two, if they are qualified, we're prepping them psychologically. We're actually doing even more than that. We are positioning ourselves as in control, organized, a place that they can feel comfortable. Like this is we're a serious business. All that stuff builds that trust and credibility element. So they should feel that they are being qualified, right? Like that we're not going to let just anybody come into the school if you got the money. That's not what we do. Even if that's what you are doing. It's like
They can't know.
know that, but that will make them want to be in the school more.
It gives them.
So all of this stuff, it helps on all elements of this. A, you avoid going further with the wrong people. The right people are going to be much more, they're going to perceive more value. And this is really critical for any business, okay? Pricing is not what you think it should be or what another school thinks it should be. Pricing needs to be based exclusively on the perceived value of the buyer. Okay. So let me give you a real world example about qualifying and pricing. When we first launched very early, we just ran ads. Those ads directed people to our website where people could just book a demo. Okay. And they would book a demo and then it would be like months. The majority of those demos would be no shows. And so the average lead to close rate was like probably about 4 months. It took like too many hours talking to them, like multiple demos and too much time. It was really hard work to get that customer to close with us. Like we were putting in a lot of effort. Okay. Then we made a change to the marketing funnel. And what we did was we added a step, and that step was a webinar. So the ad drove people to a website where they would not book a demo directly. They would sign up for a webinar that they would then attend. And then at the end, they could sign up for a demo. So what that did was it reduced the lead to sale average time from 3 months to less than 2 weeks. At that point, 91% of our customers closed, meaning signed up and paid based off one Zoom meeting. And we were able to increase the actual sales price. Why? Same people, same product, same salespeople, because adding that webinar basically sold Hubly to them. Now, by the way, we were getting considerably less people booking demos, right? Because we were filtering them out, but it was all automated. We weren't like putting our time into it. It was a fully automated system. It took some time to build and all that stuff, but it reduced our cost of acquisition as well, both in ad cost and also resource cost, time, effort, all that stuff. So what we did is we basically took our sales presentation that we were doing manually multiple times per school. We put it onto a webinar, which runs on its own automatically. We that information, put it into a webinar, and we package it as a free webinar on how to grow enrollment using Facebook ads, as an example. Within that webinar, we're just showing what we do and why it works with case studies from customers and all that stuff, which is exactly what we do in our sales presentation. It's the sales presentation with a little bit of different positioning and slightly different information. They're being sold on the concept, on the what, in this stage of the webinar, which is the same stage for you as this qualification call. It's the opt-in and conversion stage. It's between the opt-in and the sales conversion. We're talking about that part of the process.
If you remember, Miss Nan, we had a chat with our founder webinar, and we had all the people in our funnel, and we did Zoom calls during COVID. This was before they scheduled a tour or before the next step.
And I'm not sure how that went. It might have went well, might have not have been. But the point is a totally different world at that point, right? And I'm not suggesting that you should start doing that. However, what we have to do is we have to, anyways, my point is where I'm getting this, because I'm talking about pricing here, right? So the reason why this works this way is because before we did the webinar process, think of your marketing funnel as a ramp. Somebody comes in and opts in as a lead, and they're like, before we had the marketing funnel, we had this like little ramp that had a very low angle. Okay. And we're bringing them to this point trying to get a sale, but they're on a very low ramp. That ramp is the lead qualification and positioning process. And really like selling the concepts, and you can also call it some indoctrination of what we do, why you need to do it, like making these big, bold claims, showing case studies, right? So we weren't doing all that stuff manually. But when we added this additional step of going through that webinar, right? Before, what we did is we lengthened and increased the angle of that ramp. So they're now coming up this process and they're being filtered throughout the way. But the people that get through this process are going through a process where they're increasing the perceived value, right? Like the more they go through this process, the more labor they are doing, the more they are learning, the more we're positioning. That webinar is teaching them things that they didn't know. Our webinar is valuable to people because it gives them like, oh, this is what I should do. This is not what I should do. It's that clarity. They have people don't know what to do. They don't know what or why they should do it, right? So it's like we are handing them a roadmap, and we're investing heavily into getting people into that. We're giving that away. We're not asking for that money. We're not even covering the cost of the ads to attend that, and they get to walk away with, oh wow, at least I know what to do. I can go do this with somebody else if I wanted to, but now I know what works and why it works, right? I don't know how to implement it myself, but at least I know what needs to be implemented and why it needs to be implemented. So that increases, right, not just a perceived value of our service or your school, right, but of what it is, regardless of who provides it. And then when they get through that process and they book a demo, they are coming in like much closer to buying, which shortens the cycle, right? And they have a higher perceived value of a solution. So when they go to purchase, the price is set towards their perceived value. Is this making sense?
Yes.
And we've tested other ways of increasing the value even further. We have a strategy that we've tested and we use before they go through the webinar. Instead of at that point trying to sell them, what we do is we sell a course. Like we've invested and built like an online on-demand video course on how to do it yourself. And we sell that, and people purchase that course. And some people skip over the course, but the people that purchase that course, what does that course do? It increases the level and extends the ramp further. So by the time they get out of the course, they're even like, it's like they close in like a second because their perception is now much clearer on how much it takes to actually get this done, because they've actually seen that, oh, if I'm actually going to learn how to do this myself, I have to go through this many hours of a video, and I have to go through this process of learning. And this course, we hand them templates and all that stuff to go do it themselves. But like now they see how much work it really is because they've actually gone into doing it themselves. So they are like, oh my God, I really need someone else to do this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they have
So
a better
we want to
understanding.
create that for your parents.
I couldn't agree with you more. But my thing is, what, so you are going to suggest the tools?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But this is the first step. Okay. So I'm just on a very high level
Okay.
as a theory. Our goal with this qualification step is to create a high perceived value and create a sense of urgency to move forward. Okay. So I'll just, can you give me, I'm going to request access to edit this. Every stage of the marketing and sales process is to increase perceived value and create a sense of urgency to move forward. Okay. So let's now go through this. So we talked about it. So the script. Hi, Mary, how are you today? Great. This conversation will focus on you and your child, but before we get into it, I'll quickly share a little bit about myself, the admissions at Cedar Hill Prep. Over the last 21 years, we've helped more than 1,500 students to get in the top private day boarding high schools by building their executive function skills. This is an umbrella term to describe how we help children learn to focus, observe, make connections, write notes, manage time.
So I would like that. More
Okay.
students.
You don't have to get into 1,500. It doesn't matter. 21 years I like because it gives you like
The
credibility.
history.
We've helped more students get into the top most prestigious schools in the nation than any other prep
Local
school.
Prep school.
in the
or
local
even
area.
like any school actually in the area.
If you could say more than any other school in the US. In the US, like,
That's a bold one.
yeah, that's a bold
That would
one,
be
right? It was
too
like in the
bold.
world, like whatever you can do.
Jono, can you just write over the last 20 years we've helped more? Yeah. Okay.
I would say we've sent,
More students
right?
into the
We want to make it more about this is because of us,
us.
not the
Correct,
students.
correct. You're absolutely right. We need it to be top level and not get
Yeah.
into the nitty gritty because
Yeah.
it may not mean anything to them.
The nitty gritty is for the buying decision.
At the end.
It's further down the road. Right now, we're at the qualification stage. We're at the positioning, value building, urgency. And by the way, those things are going to be with like the positioning, the value building, the
Throughout the whole
urgency.
process.
We're just going to go deeper into context with each of them as you go different stages, right? Like you add context to those elements.
Category.
It all comes from the high level here.
So, Jonah, would it make sense to add that they also get into prestigious high colleges after that?
Oh yeah, you're right. High schools and
Just say most
prestigious
prestigious schools in the nation.
from high schools and
You know,
colleges.
you can say prestigious, fine, prestigious high schools and colleges in the nation.
Yeah.
We've sent more students, most prestigious high schools and colleges in the nation.
And then we should remove this whole middle states thing.
Are you familiar with the middle states accreditation? Too
Yeah,
detailed right now.
too detailed.
I think maybe skip to the bottom, like not the
Skip that
bottom,
whole
but
thing.
yeah, I would go right straight into like our curriculum, like the clubs.
That's what I need to ask Jonah.
Uh-huh.
Do we go into the curriculum or what do we do? To me, I would say if you're talking big level, most parents want to know what you're going to do for their child. So I was wondering if we should then ask a question, what are you looking for?
Just remember that sales, right? We're not so much worried about features right now. We're worried about casting a vision of their child,
Yeah.
focusing on that. Like, we want them to ask about the how. It's always good to give information when people are like ready to ask for it. So I think we'll get there, but
I think as we discuss all those bragging points, that's when they'll ask more. Is what you're saying, correct?
yeah, let's touch on it now, but let's do it on a very high level, right? Don't get into the specifics, but how do we talk about it on a high level?
The
Like,
advantages our students have here are they have high academic, they have a high academic curriculum, or they're in these national level competitions. I don't know, Miss Nan, Can you help me here?
Wanted to hear from Jono whether he wanted, is this still us bragging or is this
Yep.
asking?
No, we're still bragging. So
Okay.
it's
The
like
preposition.
so let me give you an example of what I'm thinking in my head is like our students are getting in the most prestigious high school and colleges. We do that by providing the highest level of academics.
We are the only school that focuses on student skills from debate, from presentation to sports, arts, and STEM. Because we start teaching drama as young as grade 1, and how does that help?
So
Like,
okay, so our program offers the highest level of academics, sports, and theater.
so Jono, I want to just say something if you can spin doctor it.
Yeah.
So we had a debate tournament on Saturday, and we have students from 6th, 7th, and 8th, which are very young. The topics, and I'll tell you, was cryptocurrency should replace traditional banking system. The second one was they had to debate on diplomatic immunity does more harm than good. And the third was ban patents on life-saving medicines. I only spent 4 sessions with on them, on all of them. We had 66 schools times 3 participate in this debate. We had people come from California, and our first debate was cryptocurrency, and we had taken 8 teams. All of them won it. And I just sat there and said, now you guys are going, if you don't win the next debate, you're going to say, Miss Nan, you didn't spend as much time with us on that. But my point is, this is what we do. Schools, everybody is amazed at how our children are able to
Okay.
articulate.
Our students win the most debates. Our students win the most sports.
A lot of our children are in the national academic competitions.
Hmm.
Drama team did really well.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that's great. We'll get there. I do want to get
So I
through
think I
this.
like that line that you just said, the top
Uh,
line. Offering students the highest quality academic, sports, debate, and theater program. That's it.
academics debate.
Sports and
And at this point, and by the way, if they start asking questions, it's you have to in the right way say, shut up, we'll get there. I'm in charge. Okay.
Britt, you got that right?
Don't
Girl, I
write
got
that
it.
down and say it, or you actually will get fired. But I'm sure at some point. When everyone's don't send your kid there. She's so rude, that Brittany lady.
The
Let me
intro.
just jump back to my version because where
Why
is my
didn't you
version?
just show me your version?
He did, I think, in the other one.
I did share it with you. I sent you a link to it so you could edit it
Yeah, I
just
have
from
that.
there.
I have that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But let
You
me
mean
do.
original script?
Yeah, the one that we were working on
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
So this is where we want to talk about the bragging thing. If we're talking to a Montessori school, we're saying, hey, are you familiar with the Center for Guided Montessori Studies? They're the largest Montessori teacher training in the world. They recently became a major shareholder in our company. So it's time to name drop. So who can we name drop?
Would this name dropping include the correlation of the Korean Church Center, where that would be like our
No,
auditorium?
no, because who cares about that? Who cares
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
Korean Church Center?
Okay.
Name dropping is something like
Being invited to attend the academic leader group.
something that, again, on a high level, it's like our school leaders, our education developers are part of the world's largest blah, blah, blah. Or our faculty is the best in the world. This isn't exactly what you'll say, but I'm trying to get, how are we bragging? How do we add
Like
credibility?
our athletics coach is one of the top, right? Would that be a part, like spotlighting our faculty in a sense?
It's like our students do the best, right? And they do the best because
Because of our
our
faculty.
school leadership, we have to stay away from industry jargon. This is
Yeah.
one of the biggest challenges for people that are experts in a field that want to do marketing. You're not selling to other experts in the field,
So they're not going
right?
to know exactly what.
When I speak about marketing to the average school director, I don't get into jargon. I don't talk about as much metrics and cost of acquisition and all that stuff.
They don't understand.
My NJ 100, because we're the only school that got nominated for the NJ 100.
Okay, so what's the NJ 100? It's the 100 top schools.
They identified in every business, whether it's telecommunicate, like the whole Jing Bang lot, and in the education category, I'm the only one that got nominated this year, and all the others are colleges. If you do NJ Innovate 100,
Cedar Hill Prep, so
2025 nominated.
was the only school nominated for the
New Jersey.
nominated as
Yeah.
one of the most innovative,
Right.
let's just say the best, one of the best businesses.
Schools. Yeah, businesses.
It's the only school nominated as one of the
Yeah.
best businesses in
The
New
state.
Jersey,
Yeah.
in the state. Okay.
These
As one of the
innovative.
top, as one of the top 100, this is in the state.
Who's like a huge entrepreneur guy. In fact, if you can see it, oh, the collegiate prep and the new website, he actually has a video that says he wishes there were more schools like us. We are actually meeting the needs of the parents unlike any other. Does that count?
Not unless that guy means something to the parent.
Okay.
He might later on, but right
Mhm.
now, it's like, who is that guy to them?
Okay.
Like when I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't know who he is. That's great. Like, because I don't understand the organization, you know what I'm saying? So we have to assume that right now it could be down the road, or by the way, something like that where the parents are now more understanding of what like IB is and all that stuff. That's when it could be a retention tool. It could be a referral tool to get referrals, things like that. But right now, let's assume this is the more general parent.
Yeah, and Brit, again, we were the youngest school to get the National Blue Ribbon too, so that can also validate this.
Yes.
So like the idea is here is like you're talking to a parent like, hi, Cedar Hill Prep. So over the last 21 years, we've sent more students to the most prestigious high schools and colleges in the nation. And we do this by offering our students the highest quality academics, debate, sports, and theater programs.
Our faculty
You know,
are the best in the world.
we do that by having the best faculty in the world. As example, our school is the only school nominated one of the top 100 businesses in the state of New Jersey.
We're bragging.
This is all about positioning, showing authority. So we did this.
We're getting there.
As an example, a school was the only school nominated as one of the top 100 businesses in the state of New Jersey. And if you get some odd, annoying parent or down the road, you need to be able to verify and validate everything you're saying.
Ramp up.
You can just, but you can back it up.
Yeah,
Yeah. Always.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, you can dress this up as you need and make it in, put it into your own style of speaking, but don't change the words. You know what I'm saying?
Keep it the way as it.
So now that we're doing the top of the funnel, a question for you, Jono, is to me, if we are the best of the best with the best faculty, then we're looking for the parent to make the next move.
What the point of this is to get the parents to want to make the next move.
Okay.
All right. So when parents start making the next move, okay, what's the next step? When they start asking for, okay, what's the next step? Well, first, have we qualified them?
Yeah.
So we're like before the next step comes, it's okay, hold on, we need to make sure you're worth our time.
Yeah.
Okay. So Brittany, if I could ask you, as the one that's having this conversation, do you think this is going to change to put you in a better position?
For closing that.
Like, how does this feel to you? Do you think having that conversation like I just laid it out, is that going to put you in a better position to qualify them? And do you feel like this is going to put you in a position of authority and in control of this conversation?
Oh, absolutely. And it's more of this, like you said, this approach is more of them sitting and listening. And then, like you said, prompting them to ask those questions as you dive deeper into those different venues of whether it's debate or.
But your job is to not answer questions too early. When
Yeah.
you're asking about money, this is the key. All right. This is the thing that you have to get good at. When they ask how much is tuition,
Uh-huh.
we can get into tuition, but first we have to basically
Go over.
first and
usually
foremost, we've established if there's a fit, if there's enough of a fit to get to that point.
Even in person, before we even have this script or anything, I
Oh,
always hand the tuition last because that will turn a family off immediately during the whole tour. And again, it's just not going to be informative or useful at
right.
all for them.
But we also have to qualify them on being able to pay for tuition before we get into the tour.
Correct.
So it's like you want to kick that discussion down the road, but only with the right people.
How would you get
Um,
into that conversation?
so that's exactly how we're going to get there. That's the next stage. Okay. What is this here? This is are a bunch of details. It looks like.
This looks like
We
more into
just went
bragging
into a lot
rights.
of details.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just we're going to get rid of this.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any questions during this call,
Interrupt me and I'll answer
yeah,
them because I say
right.
that during the tours because I'm nonstop talking. So I always say, please
Yeah.
interrupt me if you have any questions because I will not stop talking because there's so much
Yeah.
to discuss about CHP.
So I don't know. I think for this right now, because I think for schools, this is a little different. I think what we'll do is
Yeah, I
we'll just
agree.
get rid of this. And then, okay, so you've positioned yourself, right?
Yes.
Here's our badge. Now, in order to see if, we're a good fit for them, I need to learn a little bit about your situation. Do you mind if I ask you a few quick questions?
I think that's
Right.
perfect.
Yes.
And then if we can determine a fit, obviously I'll show
I
you what we
love
have to
that.
offer.
And go
Yeah.
further into detail there. Yeah.
It's like, okay, now, because again, it's authority, position. We're not sure if you're right, if, etc. Okay, great. And now we get into the situation questions that we talked about, what piqued your interest in the school, and what you to know. No, what piqued your interest in the school? Why are you looking for a different school? How is your child doing right now? What we're trying to determine is like, where are they at right now?
Academically,
And there's
and then
always a reason why they're looking for another school, right?
absolutely, they wouldn't be looking if everything was okay.
And also, how is your child doing right now? How is your child doing right now, socially, academically?
Only if the answer will lead us. The wrong answer will tell us they're not the right family, or the right answer will lead us to the right next question. Right. So this is something I can't really answer for you guys, but at this stage, we're trying to get them to think about their problems. We want them to think about the problems that they have, as long as we have the solution for it. And we want to find out if they have the right problems. Obviously, there's got to be some disqualifying information about children. Maybe they have certain learning disabilities you guys aren't prepared for.
That's valid.
Because again, we're qualifying them. We want to filter out.
Make sure that they're the right fit.
Basically, we just need to ask about everything that you need to know that qualifies them to be a good fit for a tour.
Question, Miss Nan, would this also be an appropriate time to ask if there's any underlying concerns with their child? Like, I obviously know that's such a touchy subject. Like, I don't even like
I wouldn't,
asking that,
because
but
that sends alarm bells. Parents get freaked out.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
At what
I
point
think
during the process do you figure
I
that
think
out?
we would do that only in a tour if you notice. Like, for example, yesterday we had.
Why go into a tour with someone if you
If
could have
you know
filtered
they're
them
not
out
the right
before?
fit.
So sometimes what I'm saying is, why go into a tour? Because many parents will not see things.
Yesterday is actually a good example if you want to go into that quickly, but this kid had it like yesterday, what you were discussing before, like Richard, his IEP discloses a lot
His
of
IEP was scary, okay?
yeah.
Said he
And the
had
kid came in.
oppositional defiance disorder, he had everything. I didn't see that in the child at all. We've dealt with enough kids. And many times it's just a fit between the adult teachers and the kid. This kid is just, he was put in a school because he has ADHD, but they put him in a school with kids with more severe disabilities. So I'm sure he was bored there. He didn't show us anything. And I asked the parents some questions about parenting, and then
Okay, so just sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Just being conscious of time.
yeah.
I
So
want
my
I
point
want
is,
to I'm happy to go over our regular time. I want to get through this document.
the
Okay, so
question is, shouldn't it be very broad in the Zoom, is all I'm saying.
unless we're going to get into finding out something that is not going to work for us,
Right.
we're trying to qualify them, right? or we're also trying to disqualify them, right? Or at least flag something for like everything else is good. Here's this question mark as a note. Let's just know that for that we need to get more info on. So future questions. What would you like for your child? How can we make your child successful? I don't think that's a question for them.
Yeah.
That's for you to tell them.
Okay.
What would you like for your child? Maybe can we get more specific?
What do you define as success?
What kind of school do you want your child to go to? High school or college?
What are your goals for your child in high school?
Do you have any specific schools you'd like to see your kid get into for high school?
There you go. That's
a
perfect.
better question.
Perfect word.
Why can't I type? Where do you want your child to be in the next 3 months?
Is it too specific?
Okay. No, that's okay. That was a question we have because we're asking for it's like enrollment. There's short term, near term, middle term, long term goals, right? 3 months is a good indicator for us. I'm not sure if it's a good indicator for parents and schools.
What visual?
So we've asked a long term goal, right? We could ask like more of a short term goal. What do you like? What do you want to see, or what
are your immediate goals for your child?
Yeah, let's say if for the next year.
What do you envision for your child in the next year?
What?
Yeah.
What? How would you? Let's say like how would you describe success for your child in the next year?
Yeah,
That's good.
that's broad enough.
Have you determined what your most important change factors would like to see in the next year? So that's too lingo-y. That's too. You need to understand the philosophy behind that question too much.
What visible changes?
Say it again, Nan. I'm sorry.
I said what visible changes?
I think we're good for now,
Okay.
right? If something pops up as, I keep having to answer this question, we want to put it in or something, but let's just leave it like this for now. Because again, this is more about positioning. We're not like, we're not trying to test them. You know what I mean? We're just trying to get them to be thinking the right way. We're trying to get their neurons, right, to focus in a certain pattern. Now we want to find landmines. Basically, we want to find out, are they poor? Do they have enough money? This is like the BANT and authority. Do they need us or do they need somebody else? Right? Do they have the problems that we solve? Do they need us? Meaning, do they give a crap about going to prestigious high schools or colleges? Is this like just we want to filter out families that are like, don't really care much about academics or
serious or not?
Yeah. Because you want to maintain, ideally, right? You want to have the families that are focused on what the culture of your school is, right? Like you want, because that helps your metrics for future, right? It's like you don't want families that like don't care or cause problems or whatever. And like they bring down your business metrics, your success metrics that you have deemed as these are our success metrics. You need to make sure those metrics keep getting better.
Right.
You want a higher percentage of the kids going to the best high schools. And you get that by filtering and qualifying. So hypothetically speaking,
by landmines,
like the financials or
hidden explosives that are gonna kill you.
Like an IEP
and kill your business.
Would this also go in that area where we're discussing like figuring out if they're the right fit, whether it's like they have an underlying IEP or anything like that? Would this be this area where we asking this question before the content, obviously?
Yeah, it could be. This is kind of like more again like in a B2B setting. This is written for like a business to business type of conversation. So I do think that we can massage this to be more because you're B2C, right? You're selling to a consumer.
Correct.
But let's just work with this for a second. Okay, great. So hypothetically speaking, if you think this school is a fit, would you be able to start the process soon, or do you feel like they're right? So we want to know like time. Are they ready to go? Is this we want to know, and this is how we shorten that cycle. Right? Are the problems that you have really serious? And do you really want a solution to those problems? And are you ready to move now? So would you be able to start the process soon? Or do you feel there are other issues you need to consider?
And I feel like that last question could also go for financial as well, again, without being so direct. So maybe they would be willing to discuss that if we're asking if there's any other issues. They should be open enough to say financially that's one of our.
I would just say, let's make this, because this is more specific and there's only one thing, I would say, okay, great. Hypothetically speaking, if you think this school is a fit, are you ready to start the application process now for the next year?
I also like how you act like in the sense of urgency, because we do have sometimes students join us. I said, I
Sure.
do the question that you had before where it was like, how soon are you willing to start the process? Because not only are we just enrolling for the following school year, like where we are right now in our time,
Mhm.
but sometimes there's
Yeah.
families that come in mid-year, whether they're coming from out of state or they really are not pleased with where their student is now and they'd like to transfer them immediately. Again, depending
Yeah.
on the time of the year, we usually don't accept
Okay, so
students.
let's just say vaguely, are you ready to start the application process? Because if it's early in the year, they might be looking for next year, but they might be looking for in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
But still, you want to get that enrollment for next year now,
ASAP.
anyways. So typically, K-8 schools build foundational skills for children so that they get a head start for high school. Are you prepared for this investment in your child? Okay,
Well, I guess
so
that's a financial question too.
yeah, so you want to ask, do they have enough money? Are they ready
Ready?
to it?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that needs to be involved in this conversation? You don't want to have this conversation over and over
Over and
again. And if they don't have BANT, budget, authority, needs, and time, depending on what they're missing, it might be, okay, see you later. Or it might be, okay, let's pick this up when you can have your ex-husband like there. Because if he's part of this decision-making process,
We would need all of you
We would
collectively
we
to
need
make this decision.
everybody. Yeah, like we need to know we're talking to the decision-making committee. Bottom line is we don't have time to sit here and talk with you while you gather information. That might be totally irrelevant, right? Is the other decision maker bought into this process? Do you have the authority to make a decision without them, or can you do it on your own?
Okay.
Then you do it. Really important. And it's not just because you're, again, that's a landmine, right? Has that ever happened before? Like you thought someone was enrolling and then you find out the ex-spouse is not having it?
100%.
It happens all the
Okay.
time.
So I never thought about that, but that's a huge landmine that you need to deal with
Iron out.
now, not
Yeah.
later, not
Mhm.
after a
That's right.
tour. Has that ever happened after a tour?
Yes,
Oh my
absolutely.
God. No, like we have to cut that out completely,
Yeah.
100%.
right? Both parents have to be there, or at least,
I
Whoever's
like
paying for
that.
the
You know, we
tuition.
never thought about it till now, but yeah, we went through this whole contract thing where someone was trying to renege on it, and the husband said, I didn't even see the contract, she signed it all. And we brought the
oh
lawyer
my
and they
God,
said, too
what a
bad. Yeah.
risk. What a
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah.
I think any school would be crazy to do a tour without both parents in agreement.
So actually,
And at the
can we
same,
have in the contract a
A
place for two
signature for
signatures?
both.
Just because, as Jono said, we need to just
Clarify everyone's on the
clarify
same
that. Yeah,
page.
have a
Yeah.
and
signature for both.
With Blackboard, both the parents have separate accounts, and then we could make it mandatory that we have two signatures.
Let's just do that. Okay,
okay,
thank
wonderful.
you, Jono. That was good.
Are you ready? Are you prepared for this investment? Yes or no? And make sure we have everyone
Yeah.
on board. The people who are investing in this
So they
job.
don't yet know, but I would just say, let's clarify. Are you able to make this decision on your own, or is there someone else? Are you
Is it-
able to make this enrollment decision on your own?
Because sometimes we even have like grandma and grandpa, they'll pay for the
Yeah.
students. Sometimes we have them join the tours because they are paying for it. So they would like to see what they're paying for.
And it's completely reasonable to say anybody that needs to approve this. And you can even ask, are you going to be paying
The
for this on
ones,
your own? Because if they say, yeah, make the approval on their own, it's okay. And if not, then you can't make this decision on your own because you don't
Correct.
control other people's credit cards or whatever. You know what I mean? So buying authority is critical.
Huge. We have kids leaving us because the grandparents decided to stop funding it. So
There you go. These are real world issues. I'm sure you've had this more than once.
yeah, great that we're including that in the preliminary thing.
How about, will you be funding the tuition on your own?
yeah, and that's also a great point to that question because then also if they're getting, because we don't do any scholarships or financial aid, but that will also give us a tell if they're getting support from the state.
Correct.
Oh, that's a good question.
Again, they're going to ask about how much, right? And what we say is because we have a way of answering this, which works for us, which kicks that question down the road, which is they ask like how much it costs. So we say, I can't give you an exact quote right now. We need to learn more about you to give you like a proper quote. But what I can tell you is for any school to be successful with any type of enrollment marketing strategy, you need to be prepared to spend on average $500 cost of acquisition per new student that you want to attain. Does that make sense to you? Because like most schools are like, they're just spending, I don't know, $2,500 is our marketing budget. It's like, where did that come from? Oh, it's just what we spent last year. What's it based on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some
100%.
magical wishing, or like what
But
it actually costs
actually,
to get a student.
Jono, Britt, what Jono says is very good because even from a value proposition, so Jono gave us his context. I'm thinking you can't expect a Mercedes Benz at a Ford Escort's budget. So I would love that if you are expecting the results that we provide,
You need
Mhm.
to be
be
able to
fun.
pay,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fair enough. It's like buying a cheap product and then it breaks an X
So
amount.
do you think, Jono, I would love for that to say,
You
if you
invest, you
want
get the
to avail
outcomes.
of our phenomenal school,
Yeah.
then you need to make sure you've got your finances in order. Okay.
So what I want to figure out is what's the right way to validate without shoving tuition prices in their face before they understand the value of that tuition, because that's the key. You never want to talk money with somebody before they understand the value of it,
Right, because then they
of the
more
price.
understanding of what they're getting out of that
Yeah,
once you explain it.
because it's like, what does $20,000 mean to somebody when they're not currently already understanding? Maybe like somebody doesn't know the difference between a Mercedes and a Ford. So don't show them the price of a Mercedes if they don't know the difference.
Exactly, because it's not going to be
So
valuable to them.
you're going to get this question. Obviously, you get it a lot. How do you currently answer it?
In regard, like, so, give me the
What is
example.
tuition
What I
semi
usually say, I will be so honest with you because I obviously avoid that. And sometimes they ask that right away, right off the bat, as soon as they get to the building. And again,
Yeah.
I never want to turn them off, or I don't want them to be thinking about that number the entire time while I'm talking. I actually want them to be listening
Mhm.
to me. What I like to say is, I'm actually not 100% sure, as each grade does vary per grade level. So at the end of this tour, I will be providing you this pamphlet with X amount of information, such as the calendar, lunch menu, tuition prices, tuition refund plan. All of that will be given to you at the end, and you can take a look then.
As long as you've already qualified them that they're interested in paying. So one thing I've suggested to some schools is you could say we don't list our tuition up front because we're more concerned about getting the right families in our school.
And that,
To get the right families in our school, we can be flexible and we work with people. We actually try to take a different approach rather than just having a flat rate. We believe part of having a quality program is having the right families in the school.
that's
However, there is obviously a cost to the school. Luckily for you, even though we outperform our competition, we are a little bit.
more affordable.
It's because our focus is having the right families in the school rather than just the ones that can pay the most money. So
Adding more
you're
valuable
saying,
to the
right?
community.
But we do want to ask them, right? Because we don't want them to think, oh, great, if we're great, we'll pay $5. We don't want that. But you could say we're in the same ballpark as all the other schools, but we're also focused on being more flexible
We're willing to work with one another.
to get the right families in the school because that translates to better quality education and better
Better.
outcomes.
Correct, right.
I also believe peer group is important. So do you think, Britt,
Peer
we should
pal?
say that our community is very important for us, and because students influence each other?
I think says the same thing that I just
Okay.
said, but as far as like most efficiently, just so we're going to have, you want to have, it's the word I'm looking for, handling objections, even though it's not necessarily an objection. Like we're going to have a list of objections and how to handle them. And we're only going to try to handle them if we've already qualified them. So that'll be more down the road, but let's just say they're going to ask like, how much is tuition? We're more
don't-
focused on getting the right families in the school because we know that the quality of education for all of our students. Our focus is finding the right families for our school rather than making the most money from them. Okay.
Perfect.
We can massage that a little more, but that's
Basic
I
one.
think we got the general direction of the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get there, but first I have a few more questions. So you've told them like this is probably good enough to be honest. Like there's a cost. We're in the same ballpark as the other schools, but we all have to be flexible. Part of this too is you can ask like what they do for a living, and that gives you a lot of information. Like where do they live? What do they do?
So
Oh,
maybe
sorry.
question, would that be a good input or a reference for us in the what like area should that be? Like in a form should that be in? And I don't want to
No,
say put that.
you could ask that question now. It's
What do you do for a living?
Because many,
Is that
yeah.
too broad?
No, it's just what do you get? Because
what
it
industry are you affiliated with?
maybe I work at the hospital as a janitor. That's a little
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Oh, I'm in the health field.
yeah. You can
Yeah,
be on two different levels there.
yeah.
What is your occupation?
I would say that would be more situational. Okay, so we'll call this a situation question. You can be like, because you're trying to understand like the family situation, right? So it's are both your parents working? Like,
What's the
do
status at
both
home?
parents work? Yeah, you just want to understand, is there a stay-at-home mom? Blah blah blah. What do you guys do? There's nothing wrong with asking that question.
No.
And it's, oh, you're both doctors. Okay,
That's cool.
all right. Verified, verified for having enough money.
Correct.
Even if whatever their cash flow situation is, like they could make an adjustment for the right school. Okay. So upfront contract. Great. Before we schedule you for a tour, I just want to be upfront about how this works. Once we're done with the tour, we'll ask you to complete step 1 of the admissions process. Next, we want your child to spend half a day in the school. At the end, if it feels like a good fit, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Pressure to make a decision on the spot. But just so you know, we have limited openings, and it is important for us that every new student is equally excited to
No,
help us
that
build.
Once you are done with the tour, we will ask you to complete step 1 of the admissions process. Jono, do you think it's best interest for us to have? We have an iPad. Sometimes we carry it around just to update the pipeline of the stages of our prospective people
Mhm.
coming in. But do you think we should have that iPad at the end of the tour and have them fill it out in person in front of us? So we don't have to be like, oh, when they get home, they'll fill it out. And then
you're
sometimes
right.
you hear like days on end and we don't hear from them. And then I'm
Ab-
calling them and then that's how they
Absolutely.
ghost us sometimes.
Because anything you can do to not let
Mhm.
people, not let humans,
Slip through the
you know,
cracks.
get off
Procrastinate.
track. Part of sales is if you've qualified them and they're a good fit and they're looking for what you offer, then it makes sense to cajole them a little bit to stay
Get
on
close.
track,
Yeah, get faster with
you
the,
know,
well, get quicker with the process.
because they're worth it. Basically, if this is somebody you want to continue, do whatever you can to get them to continue.
Okay.
Stay on. It's always best if we're talking to somebody and they want to, if somebody calls, right? And they're like, oh, I'm interested in a tour. You do a little qualification with them. You don't be like, okay, and give us your email. We'll send you a link to book a tour. No, you open up your calendar and
Right
to make a
away.
commitment right there. That's your job, is to book
Right.
it right there. Because what you're
They're not
doing
gonna.
is you're sending them into a situation where there's a myriad of things that are going to distract them, get in
Correct.
their way. It's like when you've
Mhm.
got them, that's when
Just
you
do
get
it.
them to commit. That's actually closing the stage. Your job is to close. Your job as a salesperson, because that's what you are in this situation, is to
Make it easier for them to process and close.
your job is to sell them on making a decision now rather than
Yeah.
later.
Right.
Okay, so whatever the decision is at that stage, get them to make it now rather than kicking it down the road.
Right.
That's lazy and you're just avoiding the hard question. Because it's
Once they're
uncomfortable
out
to
of
ask people.
sight,
Once
Yeah.
they're out of sight and out of mind, and then they're
Yeah.
taking care of their family at home and doing their day-to-day job.
And you just spent money to get that person in there. You need to treat them like they're precious because your funds are precious.
Absolutely.
I think this is really good.
we nailed it
Well
this time.
documented now. Before we schedule a tour, I want to
Explain. Missions.
And we have actually the thing Casey made.
So Casey created this little infographic that shows what are the steps.
Right. Besides
Fine.
telling them, they may forget, but at least they have that infographic to guide them.
And so next stage for this is to book a Zoom, right? And do a presentation. While you speak to them, you're like, and while you're showing, while you're bragging, you're giving them imagery.
I absolutely agree with you. That was in my notes. Like showcase the brags, like showcase.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's also where you could be like, now, this isn't the sales presentation. Okay. That's more for the tour and also the follow-up emails, right? Where you're going to show case studies. Here's a child, here's a family success story, metrics, just needs to keep on coming at them, right? But I don't, at this stage, like we're not showing them any slides or anything like that, even though it's on Zoom. What we do is once their upfront contract is done and they've agreed to it, then we move into the demo right then, or we schedule them for a follow-up demo, right? Just so you know, we have limited openings. It is important for us that every student is equally Well, we will want your child to spend half a day in the school. Then if it feels like a good fit, I'll walk you through pricing. So hold on. We will want your child to spend half a day in school.
They already know
Okay.
pricing at that point. So there's really no
They do?
want.
No, they don't.
I guess, yeah. But it's also on
No,
our website.
essentially, Britt, what Joe's saying is many schools don't have it on their website.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Unless
maybe
they
we
have
should.
seen it on our website already. we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
talk about it. But in that sense,
Yeah.
yes. If it's not on our website, then yes, that's a good
See,
pinpoint.
if it's on your website and the parent goes and finds it, they're going to leave your website having made a
Immediately.
decision.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pricing is decision-making information, and you don't want them in a decision-making position until you've qualified them for the
Right.
tour, they've done the tour, then they're ready for a decision process. Okay. So the last thing you want to do is give them decision-making information.
Got it.
So essentially, take it out of the website.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I got it.
Oh,
There's
indeed.
absolutely no pressure to make a decision on the spot, but just so you know, we have limited openings, so that's scarcity, but the urgency is, darn it. And they are filling up.
This really
Okay.
worked. We used these words on the pop-up to closing, and that really worked. The moment we would
Guys,
put
I
that, then
want kindergarten closed.
Oh,
Yeah.
before you even sent that email, Nan, I put a post up today. KDG and grade 3 are officially closed.
Officially closed.
Yeah.
like really closed or just
Oh
marginally
no,
closed?
they're closed.
Okay.
Kindergarten's 34, and I think grade 3 is at 30 or
Yeah.
31. I could be wrong. I forget.
Just close it.
Yeah.
Let's get you booked for the tour. Okay, so let's get you booked
For the tour, which tour is this though? Oh,
for
before we
school.
No,
schedule.
when this was over the Zoom, right? You
This
said
is all
all
the
this.
call, the
This
first
is the-
call.
Then you're going to book them to come and do a real tour because you've
Yeah.
qualified them, as Jono says.
This is to have a 5 to 10 minute conversation with them,
Mm,
which qualifies them. Then if they're qualified, then they move on to the tour,
got it.
but not until they're qualified.
All right, after these questions. Okay.
And when they come in for the tour, then that's going to be, and we're going to work on that. But we want to basically, we'll discuss it, but we want to have that fairly scripted as well.
Okay.
And Brit, this ties perfectly
You
with
mean
the
even the tour, right, Joe? Because I definitely want that scripted.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Oh, yeah.
everything
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
because at that point you're just letting them observe and see what we were talking about. So they really
Yeah.
shouldn't
But
be
it's still like the way you speak to them at the beginning, like the whole, like all of this is getting them mentally, it's positioning, it's getting them to think about their problems. We have to do all of that again when they come in. Okay. It's got to be a controlled environment. So when they come in, you're going to come in, you're going to sit down with them first. You don't just start giving them a tour. You sit down with them and you go over the same information. And you're going to go through that and get them mentally prepared for the tour. And also, again, there's always an upfront contract. It's okay, so this is how it's going to work. Because that upfront contract is there to get them into agreement with your process. So that when they go through the process and you explain to them, and then at the end, like depending on whatever it is, it's like at the end, it's like either, I guess, whatever the next step of the process is, they have to know it's coming.
Correct.
So you're going to explain the agenda and here's the process. Okay, sound good? All right, let's get started.
And also, Britt, I think with the next, like when we go over the next thing with Jono with the tour, I also think, I was just thinking, we normally, you'll bring them either to me or to
Daily.
Ms. Lakey, the teachers.
Uh.
I think we need to be less accessible until they sign. Do
Right.
you agree, Jono?
What do you mean?
Meaning that many times, right, our teachers can sell more. I mean, they may talk so much that they give the impression that we're desperate.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that's important. They feel that they are being interviewed for the school, not the other way around. Like they need to pass your test.
That's a
Yeah.
huge shift.
that's
for
a
us.
different
We have
mindset
to change
completely.
that
Yeah.
mindset.
By controlling this conversation, that puts them into that positioning. It's like they're viewing you as the authority, you're the gatekeeper to this magical world they want to enter into, but they have to work with your process. And it's your process because you know how to do this and they don't. Okay. So definitely need to jump off now. We've gone an hour over, but I'm really happy about the result here. I think this is a great qualification script. And of course, it's meant to be dynamic. So as you do things, like we've already discovered a few things that happen regularly that are issues. So we want to make sure we think about it. What are other landmines? Think about what are those landmines that you regularly run into that you really wish you knew before they came in for a tour. Let's get those out of the way or figure out the best way to bring them to the surface.
One landmine quickly that I can think of is we usually have them sending us their transcripts from their other school, which will tell us a lot about them.
Okay, so that tells you a lot more about the child, right?
Correct.
So
what I mean is at least whether the child has any behavior issues, academic issues.
That could be, you might, so again, you might want to require that before they can book a tour.
That's what I'm saying. They do that normally. Like yesterday, this kid that we were referring to, they got that before they came for a tour. But I like what you're saying, Jono.
So in this scenario, what you could do
transportation
is say,
would be a landmine.
Very good point. Transportation is a huge landmine.
So
how will you be commuting to the school?
Transportation.
A lot of times they'll come, they want to join, and then they make it our problem to make a transportation solution for them. I didn't bargain for that. We promise you an education, not like how to get you here.
Okay, so what I was going to say was, like with the transcripts, that could be a scenario where if everything else passes the qualification, you book the tour, but they know, because you want them to book it. You want them to commit to something while you've got them. But let them know before the tour, we need the transcripts.
Should I make it like a mandatory step? So right now I have it as an optional step with the tour. When they sign up for the tour, we get some basic information and then they get to upload files and forms. Correct. So we have it as mandatory after they finish the tour.
We should do this now.
Before.
Put them off.
If they book it, at some point,
only ones who'll be put off are the ones who are afraid that they may be showcasing some issue.
Or not put off. They won't be able to get
we won't say it from the school. So they, just like how our parents can download the grade link, can just download their transcript. Yeah.
Could be that only needs to be mandatory in certain scenarios based off their answers, or always. But that's one of those things you might want to just have a path B for, depending on what you learn in here, right? Or maybe you just want to have it every time. I'm not sure. But you want to find that sweet spot of getting them committed to the next step of the process, which is booking a tour. And so it could be like they have to send you the transcripts before a certain amount of time before the tour, or else it gets canceled. We'll book it now, but we need to get the transcripts at least the morning of or something. Basically enough time for you to say, okay, let's cancel this tour, but maybe at least the morning of the tour, whatever gives you enough time to, like, maybe a day before the tour, something like that, or else we won't be able to let them know, because if you don't get it, you'll just have to reschedule till they can do it. But getting them committed to that next step in the process is going to be very important. Okay, so we'll leave that there. This is a good script, and we'll follow up with next step requirements. I think we've got everything. Okay.
Thanks for spending the time.
Thank you, Jonah. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Sanat.